Hello, I'm author and publisher Mark David Welsh, and welcome to another of my Victober 2020 reviews. Today I'll be discussing the Castle of Wolfenbach by Eliza Parsons. Now, I knew nothing about this one going in, but what could be more gothic than this? It's got a castle in the title, one on the cover, and a name, Wolfenbach. My God, it could not be more gothic. Could it? The Castle of Wolfenbach is a 1793 novel by the author Eliza Parsons. Yes, it's more of the romantic period of literature than the Victorian, but I didn't know that, and as I took the time to get through reading it, you're going to get it as part of my Victober thread. Deal with it. Story first. Our main protagonist is Matilda, who has been brought up from birth by her uncle Mr. Weimar. Unfortunately, as she's about to come of age, his persistent attentions become a little too personal for her taste, and after overhearing a sinister conversation between him and the housekeeper, she takes it on the lam with a devoted servant. As we join the story, she fetches up during a wild, stormy night at the Castle of the Title, which is occupied only by the caretaker, his wife, and some pesky ghosts that allegedly haunt the closed-off part of the building. Count Wolfenbach himself hasn't been seen for many years, and his wife has apparently been dead for even longer. Now, despite the warnings of the caretaker and his wife, Matilda determines to investigate the mystery and finds out that these spooks are actually the Countess Wolfenbach. She isn't dead at all, but living in a secret part of the building. She promises to tell Matilda her story and sends a letter to her sister, the Marchioness of de Melfort, which asks her to provide Matilda with a sanctuary. That night the Countess mysteriously disappears, so Matilda hightails it to Paris and the arms of the Marchioness. And in terms of the castle, ghosts, real or imagined, and other heavy gothic trappings, that's your lot really. That aspect of the story is over, and we're less than a quarter of the way into the book. In fact, little else happens afterwards until the final passages. What we get in the meantime is Mr. Weimar tracking Matilda down, and the news that he's not her uncle at all. She's an orphan of unknown parentage. He proposes marriage, of course, which she doesn't want, of course, partly because she's getting her petticoats all in a twist over the young and handsome Count de Bouville. And here we come to the main thing I really didn't like about this book. Up until now, Matilda has been mostly a positive character, a bit humourless perhaps, and given to the occasional faint and sobbing session in the bedroom, as heroines in Gothic fiction often are. But she showed moxie to make the break from the dodgy Mr. Weimar in the first place and to investigate the supposed phantoms in the castle. But as soon as she finds out that she's an orphan, oh my. Apparently being an orphan means you're not fit to associate with decent people, especially the nobility. You're not fit to even breathe the same air as them. That's Matilda's opinion, and she's not afraid to go on and on and on about it. The young Count wants to marry her, but knows that marrying an orphan, whose parents could be anybody, will mean complete social disgrace. Eventually he conquers this idiotic prejudice, says to hell with it and asks her anyway, but she refuses because she's an orphan, remember, and not fit, etc, etc. Obviously knowing she will never love another, she determines to retire into a convent for the rest of her days. Now her new friends admire her character and self-sacrifice instead of condemning her for her stupidity, and let her know that it's not someone's birth that's important but the nobility of their character. A laudable message indeed, but completely undercut when they repeatedly follow it up with a conviction that Matilda's character and behaviour means that she must be highborn anyway, because I guess lowborn people couldn't exhibit such fine qualities. Basically, this is a book about snobbery and how it's fine, even something to be aspired to. Yes, this is a work from another time and social standards were different back then, but even so, it's really not a pleasing message. My major complaint about the book, though, is that it's boring. As I've said already, very little happens between the initial setup and the concluding passages. And if you're familiar with Gothic literature from this period, you'll pretty much already know that any orphaned heroine with no knowledge of her parents will turn out to be born of a noble family anyway. So the wrap-up is predictable as well as painfully convenient for all concerned. So I could not recommend this book for lovers of the more gothic aspects of literature, or for those who prefer drawing room action, social comedy or romance. There's none of the wit of Jane Austen here, or the sharp social observations of Hardy or Dickens, or the tragic romance of the Brontes. Although interestingly enough, this is one of a group of 7 Gothic novels that one of Austen's characters, Isabel Thorpe, recommends as required reading material in Austen's 1817 novel Northanger Abbey. However, it is worth noting that that work is a satire of the Gothic novel. One last thing which really did not help my enjoyment of this one is that it's an Amazon print-on-demand edition. Nothing wrong with that usually, but this is not well formatted. There are dialogue exchanges within these blocks of text, but they do not start on separate lines. Now I'm guessing this was trying to keep the price down by going for the shortest possible page count, but it doesn't make the reading experience very easy. Similarly, there are many places where the speech marks at the end of a line of dialogue are missing, which often means taking a moment to make sense of what you've just read. As someone who self-publishes, I would never put out anything that was this sloppy. Yes, it's a cheap edition, but that's no excuse for this serious lack of a presentation that's professional. So this one was a disappointment on many levels for me, and I'll be moving on next to something that looks a lot more like my kind of thing for my next Victober read. It's called The Necromancer, and it was published in 1784, which technically again is not Victorian. I probably should have done a bit more research when selecting my choices. But it's too late to stop now. So please don't forget to leave a like or share and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. And until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and don't be a stranger.